Old school.
God, stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny. But yo, I'm making money, see? So yo, world, I hope you're ready for me, and I gather round. I'm a little forward town, and my sound's laid down by the underground. You drink a ball of Hennessy, you kind of, you should.
We're going to talk about the NASDAQ.
Introduce myself, my name is Humpty. Pronounced with the Humpty.
So I took my mom up to take a nap, and I put her sunglasses in my pocket. So when I hit the live button, I pulled out my glasses, her glasses. Here's her glasses.
Me. I like to laugh. I like when it's funky. I'm spunky. I like my oatmeal latte. I'm sick with this. Straight Dexter Mac.
Actually, it fits the song.
Ridiculous. I feel about your crackers and your licorice. Oh, yo, fat girl. Come here. You ticklish? Yeah, I got that.
Okay, we're going to do the NASDAQ.
And never stop me from getting busy. I'm a freak. I like the girls with the bills. I once got busy in the bathroom. I'm crazy.
Okay.
Just don't.
Remember when we used to have like real music? Like people would like, this is an interesting thing. They used to like have instruments that you played mainly with your fingers. You know, there's a lot of talk right now about like artificial, interactions with machines and humans. Yeah, it's how musical instruments work. Anyways, we're going to do the NASDAQ. And the most important thing I would have you think about with the stock market is you'll notice these things that are happening. Like yesterday, Trump says there's a 30-day truce. There's no fucking 30-day truce. Actually, somebody told me to stop using the F word, so I might back off on that a little bit. There's no 30-day truce. There's no everything that comes out of Trump is the man of perdition. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. So the way we like run the universe, run the empires with lies. And the biggest lie is that the NASDAQ, the Magnificent Seven, or the top 10 stocks in the NASDAQ are worth $25 trillion. That's the biggest lie. That's how we run this shit, right? By the way, all the mining companies in the world are $1 trillion, and our tech companies are worth $25 trillion. So let's just think about that for a minute. Like all the resources of the world are $1 trillion, and like 7 or 8 tech companies that just make software, sell software as a service, are worth 25 times that. So that's, yeah. So what the NASDAQ really is, I did some shit with Manus. Check this out. There we go. So I went on to Manus and I tried to find a new acronym for the NASDAQ. Give me just a second, it'll come up. We have the new Starlink Wi-Fi. It went down 2 days ago, but popped back on. So the NASDAQ, to me, the NASDAQ has always been the psychology of what America's doing, right? Because we deindustrialized, we went into the war on terror, but we have better tech than everybody else, right? So the NASDAQ is like our perception of how this is going. And of course, it hasn't really sold off very hard, has it? Right? It's just, if you look at the graph, it's just rolled over this year. So year to date, here's the problem, people. Here's the problem from like real stock guys, like real technical analysts. We're hitting lower lows and lower highs every week, just like this. It's a very, very negative chart. Like if it was just like up and like crashed because of the war and then like didn't know which way, it's not. It's confirming negative over and over and over again. Okay. So let me give you, okay. Some other things to think about what the NASDAQ really are. So I started with the word narcissism, because what Trump really is, if you'd had to define Trump's approach to the war, I'm dead serious about this. It's narcissism. It's just like battling, like Conor McGregor's a little bit like this, right? Like, or even Muhammad Ali, I wouldn't describe it as narcissism. I'm the greatest in the world. I shook up, all that stuff that Muhammad Ali used to do. And it used to drive his opponents crazy. And then like Conor McGregor, if you remember, like came out for the interview with Habib with a glass of whiskey in his hand and then handed like, here, have a drink, which is a horrible thing to do to a Muslim, right? It's like offering bacon to a Orthodox Jew. So this is how Trump works. So you're just constantly in this bullshit world. We're going to send, if they land Marines on an island or something like that in the Straits of Hormuz, the Iranians will just vaporize them. They won't even send, we're in a war right now. There's been no troops deployed. It's all technology. It's our technology versus their technology. And our defense warfighter. He tells us there's no more targets. There's nothing even for the Americans to shoot at. Think about that. People, if you have nothing else to shoot at, you lost. So the Iranians come out and say the Americans are negotiating with themselves. It's narcissism. It's like global messianic narcissism. There's a guy who had a website called The Saker, and he's Russian, and he's been talking about the war between the West and Russia primarily for like 15 years. They made him take the website down the day that the war in Ukraine went live. But he wrote a book, a compendium of everything that he had done over the years, and it's called Messianic Narcissism. That's what America is. America is like a sort of like a rogue asshole with nuclear weapons. So I came up with I asked Manus to help me with this, as I usually do. So I said, Manus, make 6 new acronyms for the NASDAQ. So here's what we got. Narcissistic Attitude System for Daily Adjustment Quotient. Need for Admiration Score Daily Arrogance Quantifier. Narcissism Assessment Scale Dynamic Attitude Quotient. Notoriously Arrogant Self-Delusion Awareness Quotient. This one I really like. Narcissistic Ambition Surge Detection and Alignment Quotient. That one's good. Surge Detection. Need for Approval Sensitivity Drive and Quantification. Now, I'm not out of the box, people, by saying that the stock market is psychology. That's like a real thing. All the people, the random walk down Wall Street, everything falls in a normal distribution probability thing. That's mathematically not true. And on CNBC and Bloomberg, that's how everybody talks. And that's what's herded everybody into these ETFs, right? There's no reason to really even try to manage the money or pick this stock over that stock. Everybody has the same information. It's all random distribution curve, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So everybody, the group think of the stock market. And again, this is not a conversation to say the NASDAQ's going down at 80%. What this is to alert you. This is, so who's the greatest stock investor of all time? Of course, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And really, if you think about it, they spend a lot of time talking about psychology. Charlie Munger says things like, we didn't get up in the morning and try to be the most intelligent investors. We got up in the morning and tried not to do anything stupid. By the same token, if you there's a thing on TikTok called Becoming Berkshire. It's really good. If you want to doom scroll instead of, you can just come to my shit for doom scrolling because I go through it all and then I, arrange it for you. But just sit and listen to Warren Buffett for like an hour or two. And what he really tells you is the market he calls it Mr. Market. I think he should call it Mrs. Market because the joke that women can change their mind. And he just sits there and says, yeah, we gave some money to Geico in the mid 70s for $25 million. And 40 years later, it's worth 25 billion. Just the float, just the cash in the checking account. Not the company, the cash. The cash on hand of Geico 40 years later was 25 billion. 1,000% return. 1,000% return? Yeah. 1,000 times. Yeah. The point being, like, the psychology and reality can just go in two different directions. It's all about psychology. And then I've told this story on here many, many times. So this is sort of like the other end of that. So I've told this story on here about like watching my Quotron as a stockbroker and like watching the Iraq war in 2003 and the armored personnel carriers and the tanks are just rolling. I had a client who was a Marine lieutenant in that war. He said at one point their vehicle broke down, so they opened the hood, strapped the mechanic onto it, and kept flying at 50 miles an hour with him strapped into the fucking engine across the desert. Then he told me a story. They got up one morning and he walked out, 10, 15 yards off the road to move his bowels. And the next morning there was this weird wind and rainstorm. And where he had walked, it blew the sand off. There were like 6 landmines around it. He took a shit right in the middle of the landmines. Concentrates the mind. Anyways, so the NASDAQ, you can go look at it yourself. Go get a good long-term chart and you'll see that the beginning of the war, just like a couple weeks into the war, the NASDAQ just caught a bid. What Iraq has to do with technology, I don't know. You see where I'm going with this? Now what we have is the narcissism assessment self-delusion awareness quotient. Because now you look at it and it's just rolled over this year. It doesn't even know what to do. It's just like the girlfriend that never calls you back anymore. She doesn't even want to call and fight. She doesn't even look at you when you're walking down the hall in high school. She just doesn't fucking care one way or the other. That's what the NASDAQ is doing. Then, conveniently for my presentation today, the theme here is, people, that the whole thing is rolling over. The whole war on terror thing. Like, we just woke up in the last couple weeks and realized we're not going to win the war on terror. I've told you that for 5 years. We're not going to win. The 7 million people versus 7 billion. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And this weekend, I'm going to go even deeper into the theocracy problem. Like, what is the theocracy is not, it's not even the evangelicals. It's actually much worse. It is deep into the world of, here, this book I've always referenced. He has a quote here from Kierkegaard, and it references the revolutions in Europe, which Americans have no concept of. But the idea is that America is supposedly has a separation of church and state, but really we're the country that more people believe in God in America than any other country on earth. But that doesn't mean they believe in the God of European Christianity. That's the problem. There's something else going on here. And it's scary. It's complex. It's psychological. We're really doing like a psychology thing here today. We're doing a psychology profile. And the psychology profile of the market sounds like this. Here's a headline. Okay, these are the same thing. This is from Drudge Report. Private credit's zero loss fantasy ending as rising defaults loom. And what's even worse, it's not even the rising defaults. See, the defaults are what's happening. right? But in finance, it's not about what's happening with the NASDAQ or Oracle or OpenAI. It's the investor psychology. So the real problem in private credit isn't that they're going to take some losses. They take losses all the time, just like car loans take losses and credit cards take losses. The real problem is everybody wants their fucking money back. Sorry, I'm going to use the F word. It's just part of my shtick. Everybody wants their money back at the same time. And the knock-on effects of that is that industry will not get any new credit for any new capital for a long time. You follow me? So like let's say hotels go 10% go bankrupt. Well, no one's going to invest in hotels for a couple of years, even though it would make sense, right? Even though the prices all collapse and everything collapse. Same with oil, same with everything. So there's a big change in psychology because of this war. The problem was there, but all this money comes from private credit from where? A lot of it comes from the Gulf, right? I always like to say, imagine you're sitting in Dubai and you manage $100 billion and $500 million comes in the checking account every morning. Seriously, this is how the world works. In Saudi Arabia, they get $1 billion of free cash in the checking account every morning. What do you do with $1 billion every morning? Well, the first thing you do is you put it in U.S. assets because it's already in dollars. That just changed in the last 2 or 3 weeks. You cannot conceptualize what a big change that is. You can't. All that trade through the Straits of Hormuz used to be in the U.S. dollar. In our lifetime, it used to all be dollars. And then I don't know, about 10 years ago, it started to flirt with some more yuan, more renminbi, more Chinese money. Early on, all the oil trade in Saudi Arabia had to be in gold because they were such strict Muslims. They wouldn't take dollars for anything. There's a conspiracy theory that Saudi Arabia had all this gold in Switzerland and that the Swiss stole it. I don't have any proof of that, but just something to think about. So imagine Saudi does 9 million barrels a day, and I'm going to say the Gulf states probably do the equivalent of that. So there's probably a couple $1 billion a day in the Gulf that has always been recycled into US dollars. That just changed. Donald Trump is the guy who changed that. Now, either he is insane or it's part of some bigger conspiracy that it was going to happen anyways, and this is the Great Reset. We've heard this for 5 years. The Great Reset's coming. The Great Reset. The Great Reset. It's going to have to do with crypto and this and restructuring, and you'll own nothing. All this memes that have been floating around the internet are now no longer memes. They're reality. But the other one is, quote, Palantir becomes poisonous in the midterms. And this is when I reach over and grab my Palantir hat. Palantir is now a political problem. This is my point, people. The psychology of technology has just turned. By the way, I haven't done extensive research on this. I'm just thinking out loud with you because this just happened in the last couple days. This is from the FT. Palantir turns poisonous on the campaign trail. A TV ad advertising blitz by Democratic challenger Colin Aldred has accused incumbent Representative Julie Johnson of, quote, making thousands of dollars from the company ICE uses to track and detain our neighbors. A reference to stock she held in the Peter Thiel-backed group while in Congress. Palantir has become a flashpoint in campaigns across the U.S. Amid outrage over 2 fatal shootings, blah, blah, blah. Palantir boss Alex Karp has cheered Donald Trump's crackdown on immigration and praised the U.S. president for, quote, restoring the deterrent capacity of America. See, that's not even like law and order. That shows you what this is. Okay, that's like you could just run with that. What he's saying is like, we're not looking for criminal activity in the immigrant community or something like that, because there's already people that do that. They're called police officers, and they take them to jail. And if they determine that they're not citizens, they can call immigration whenever they want, right? That's how the world works. What Peter Thiel says in that sentence is the violence is the deterrence. The kill chain is the deterrence. This is what I'm getting at, people. The tech is just violence. And I'd ask you this. What is the plan with the war on terror? You follow me? Like, when does it end? When does a Marine walk down Fifth Avenue and kiss a nurse or something? Like, what is the fucking end of all this? There isn't one. I'll explain this Sunday. This is just technology for violence against brown people. Gaza, Ukraine, Minnesota, Iran, it's all the same fucking thing. I'm 55 years old. For 25 years of my life, this is what we've been doing. These people just believe in violence. And even the investment community is like, what are we doing? And that's why this NASDAQ's rolling over. We're going to achieve AI. We're going to touch the face of God. That's not true. People in the fray are looking at the numbers and are like, the large language models aren't where the money is going to be made. Right? It's like in Claude and Manus and all of these things. Like Manus just charged me. I finally figured out how they make money. You sign up for like your monthly thing, and then if you go in and you require a bunch of tokens, it hits you with a $60 charge. Like I'll run something big through it and it just goes in and charges $60. And if you're paying attention, you see it. If you're not, you're not. I've done so much work with it, so many hours and hours and hours of work with it. I don't even mind. $80 a month or something like that. I mean, there's a thing that I posted for subscribers on like feeding out cattle and breeding them and trying to it's like 3 graduate students at Penn State did it at the ag school. And yeah. So have you heard this before? I don't even think the new technology is even really on the NASDAQ. Yeah, I've been saying that for 5 years. The whole point to all these systems, this is what Palantir is. Palantir wants you have to be part of the system or we'll kill you. That's not like a cute meme for TikTok. Palantir is a kill chain. Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL just in the last month said, we should start using the technology that Israel used against Hezbollah and kill, he didn't say kill, but this is the implication, kill anti-Semites. Who determines who the anti-Semites are? The algorithm, AI. And I think the people that manage money and manage mutual funds and hedge funds and traders and all this are finally real. This is all crazy. Like, we're not going to win this thing. There's nothing to, like the people in Iraq, as we were going to war with Iraq in 2003 are like, maybe we'll kill the bad guys and get the oil. So the NASDAQ goes up, which brings us back to are acronyms. Just to remind you here. Yeah. The narcissistic attitude system for daily adjustment quotient. I'd encourage you to make up these yourself. If you hit a good one out of the park, I'll be sure to use your name. Or the need for admiration score, daily arrogance quantifier, narcissism assessment scale, dynamic attitude quotient, notoriously arrogant self-delusion awareness quotient. The best one is the narcissistic ambition surge detection and alignment quotient. That's the best. But the need for approval, sensitivity, drive, and quantification. So the surge detection's not even there anymore, not even for Palantir. Like, look at, it's much more dramatic on my iPhone because when you look at a graph, it squeezes it like it's logarithmic or something like that. But on here, let me look at Palantir again. Palantir is everything, right? It's just going to be government defense contracts one after another. They can really create. I mean, Alex Karp wrote a book called The Technological Revolution. What? The Technological Republic, excuse me. And the implication is like the Palantir AI is going to run the defense budget and decide how much money Palantir gets. So year to date, it's okay. Even over the last year, 106 peaked at like 200. Now it's down to 175. It just doesn't show. The word that the traders use a lot is leadership. In other words, whatever's going to happen in the stock market, this actually makes sense because it's how sheep work outside my dad's pasture. Like, sheep will come up to a gate or a creek or something like that, and it doesn't move until somebody jumps across, and then they all go. So mathematically and psychologically, those kinds of ideas are truly how the world works. The NASDAQ doesn't have any leadership anymore. And instead, it's dumping all this money, all this cash flow and debt and everything went into the Stargate thing, which now is off the table because of the war. We can't fund Stargate. We can to some degree, but this trillions and trillions and trillions for Stargate, it's over. Microsoft, I think, is going to rent what's left of the giant Abilene, Texas. The whole thing's over, people. The whole story of the NASDAQ is you could sit and send me a paragraph and say, here's what I think is the investment thesis of the NASDAQ, because there isn't one right now. And that's why the thing just went like this year. And it's all lower highs and lower lows. And it's all psychology. Those private credit things, that was the funding for the big heavy duty capital, the servers. Like, they're literally machines. It's like buying bulldozers or something, or jet engines or something like that. It's not tech like some software shit that's just going to become infinite. They're machines that burn up enormous amounts of energy, and that's the other problem too. So the NASDAQ has hit a wall of energy, the NASDAQ has hit a wall of finance, they're the same thing, and the NASDAQ has hit a wall of psychology. Does this mean it's going to crash? No. Again, I watched Raging Bull the other night, and you remember Jake punches his wife. Like, you can imagine, you're a boxer and you punch your wife, right? And what does she do? That night she comes back to him. Later, when she leaves him, it's not for anything big. Like, he's just at the bar doing his dumb jokes, and he comes out at 4:00 in the morning, and she's like, I'm done with this. It's not even like, we don't even have makeup sex. It's just dumb. You're just fat and self-indulgent and hanging out with 14-year-olds at the bar in Miami. Like, I'm done. I'm taking the kids and I'm leaving. That's where the NASDAQ is. The NASDAQ is at its Vicky moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The rest of the stock market, I don't know. Here's Walmart. What does Walmart look like? Let's do year to date. Nothing. Just sideways. 45 times earnings for Walmart. I mean, overall, the stock market's at over 200% GDP. Like, really, really good is 100%. Really, really bad is like it's 60% of GDP. And we just blew up the Gulf of Mexico. We just blew up the Persian Gulf. I'm not even going to say it could go here, it could go down this much. There's no investment thesis for the stock market right now other than oil stocks. And of course, they're doing fine. And here's my joke stock that I love to bring up. Okay, so I started this 5 years ago, and my joke stock is, just to be a goof, here's Alliance Resource Partners, Appalachian Coal. Remember, we're rapidly transitioning off of fossil fuel. Alliance Resource Partners is at its all-time high. It has a 8.7% dividend yield and trades for 11.7 times earnings. It's like the best performing stock in the stock market since COVID. It's not the best performing stock in stock, but I just mean the investment thesis of that right now has never been higher. Think about it. The investment thesis for coal, right? Because if there's no natural gas going to India, or it's been cut dramatically, everybody's going to go to Baltimore and load up a big container ship filled with Appalachian coal. It's the hottest coal in the world, right? It makes steam. Yeah. All these egregores that we rapidly transitioning off of fossil fuels. We're going to cover New Mexico with solar panels. We're going to mine asteroids. We're going to the stuff that Elon Musk is doing in space. That's real though. That the money's there for that because the money's always going to be there for that. But for us mortals down here trying to manage money, there's nothing there. Now, here's an interesting thing to think about. You can buy Ethereum. Ethereum has not since, let's go longer. Here, Ethereum is a really neat chart to look at. And I'm not pounding the table for Ethereum. I just want you to look at the chart. Since COVID, Ethereum does not go below 1,600. I mean, a couple days. This thing on the iPad and the iPhone are really convenient. You can just, this is like the kind of tools I used to have when I was a stockbroker, right? You could look at all this stuff and look at all the different technical indicators, but just in your own eyeball, just go okay, it bottomed at 1576 on April 7th of 2025 last year. It bottomed at 1558, October 9th, 2023. It bottomed back in 2022 at 1200-ish. And see that, here's what's interesting. Go do that yourself and you'll see wait a minute, each one of those bottoms is just a little bit higher. And that is a very powerful long-term, don't take my word for it. Go listen to real technical people. There's something about Ethereum at about 1,500 that there's just an unlimited amount of people that want it. Somebody in the world, if it's one person or 10 million, when Ethereum hits 1,600, it ain't going down any further. And part of the settlement of the yuan paying for the oil and gas coming out of the Straits of Hormuz, it's running on Ethereum. They're not trading it for Ethereum. They're using Ethereum as the blockchain for the Russian ruble to transact. The Russian ruble, there's probably a preordained exchange rate between the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan. They're in a time of war, right? If they're allies, China isn't going to like screw over Russia if they get in a bad way. They don't want Russia to collapse. They don't want Iran to collapse. So what did they do through these last 10, 15 years is they've all been sharing finance, technology, intelligence, satellite imagery. I think I read that China sold a bazillion chips, primarily for missiles, to Iran, which is under sanctions, right? Theoretically, they can't clear the transactions through the Western SWIFT money system. So they sold them chips for pistachios. The chips flying in the Fatah and the Shahed, whatever missiles and everything were paid for with pistachios. No, but I mean, but look at Ethereum right now, because everything I just talked about doesn't have any effect on Ethereum, does it? Ethereum is not rolling over. It's not really setting the world on fire either. But everything that I just said about the NASDAQ, just the psychology, it just doesn't apply to Ethereum. Ethereum is a different vector. It's like talking about that coal stock. It just, the psychology, the numbers, everything about it just doesn't apply. The reason I'm telling you that, because I know what you're doing. Your brain is sitting there going like, well, what are we going to invest in? And even gold has gone down. Just to remind you, when people get spooked, they sell everything. They sell, and especially the hedge funds. If you borrowed money to invest in anything and things start to go bad, you sell everything. In other words, if you're long stocks and stocks start to roll over and your lender says, we need money here or we're going to liquidate you and get our collateral, you go and you sell the gold to pay for the leverage. So this doesn't even really feel like 2008, does it? Because you remember when 2008 hit, you had these like big violent moves, like Lehman Brothers went down 47% in a day. There's nothing going down 47% in a day now. And my point is that the economy in 2008 was over levered and had all these goofy mortgages, but it wasn't like the whole economy was running on fumes. And, I always say on here, this is why Mark Faber and Jim Rogers were just like, just write it all off. Just get rid of it. Just everybody take the fucking loss. Just everybody move on with their life. The problem was that all those big Wall Street firms had no equity. Warren Buffett lent, I don't know, 20 or 40 billion dollars or some big number to Goldman Sachs for a 10% preferred return, like 10% cash. Berkshire Hathaway still has a lot like Geico. Berkshire Hathaway is still making like a couple $billion a year in interest from the preferred that it sold to Goldman Sachs at the height of the crisis. Why they didn't pay it off? No, I just saw an interview. Somebody said, why doesn't Goldman Sachs pay this off? It could be that Goldman likes the idea that everybody knows that Berkshire has their back. Follow me? Yeah. Really, dude, you're gonna say like Ethereum is like Appalachian coal, and I actually think that there's something to that. Like the worse things get, the more Appalachian coal is going to be sold, and the more the Great Reset goes on with the breakup of the petrodollar. Yeah, we're going on to Ethereum. We're going on to other systems of exchange, of ledgers, of finance, of all of it. The investment thesis for Ethereum has never been better. I'll say it 3 times. The investment thesis for Ethereum has never been better. Investment thesis for Ethereum's never been better. The NASDAQ doesn't have an investment thesis right now. Microsoft is going to probably do pretty good. Maybe. Google's going to be fine because of Gemini. Apple's going to use Gemini. Apple didn't spend all this money on large language models. It's just going to use Google. It's almost like they're partners now, right? I guess Apple Safari had always used Google for its search, and they got $20 billion cash a year because of it. Just like, well, all right, I got an idea. We'll use Google search for Safari. It'll be the real backup behind Safari, and you give us $2 billion a month. All right, deal. So Google and Apple are going to be good. I think Microsoft's going to be good. I don't think anybody has any visibility about things like Oracle. I don't really know about Facebook. But I don't think that the NASDAQ Mag 7 or the Mag 10 or whatever chunk of the NASDAQ you want to look at, it's not worth $25 trillion, people. There could be some big chunks in there that go away. Lastly, I mean, around the world, if everybody knows that NVIDIA and Palantir are partnered now, around the world, how many people are going to buy chips from NVIDIA? I don't mean in the next 10 months. I mean the next 10 years. Who's going to buy all this American tech knowing that it's all backdoored by Palantir? Who, and Jonathan Greenblatt says we should Hezbollah everybody. I just don't understand who's going to do business with us. Well, they don't do business with. The basic premise of the Trump administration and Alex Karp and Peter Thiel and all of them and Larry Ellison. You know, it's another headline on the Drudge Report about Barry Weiss taking over all the media. Like, nobody's going to, as this war ends, no one's going to do business with us. No one wants this stuff. Nobody wants their pager to explode in their pants and blow their balls off. Nobody wants all this war except fucking weird Americans and Israelis. And the only place Palantir is going to be functioning is in the United States. In 2 years, it's all going to be used. There's going to probably be a lockdown related to the new elections and blah, and all this shit. It's going to be like COVID, and you're not going to be able to do mail-in ballots. And if you resist, they're just going to like track you down with Palantir. If the Democratic Party ever gets rid of its like douchebag people and actually starts to run, I don't even know what to call them. People that aren't in this fever dream of war and sort of this leaves of grass thing that like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, even Margaret Taylor Greene is like, people don't even have fucking health care. And we're like shooting missiles at Iran. Like, it's crazy. It's not going to work. You don't even have to be like in the Pentagon. But Yeah, and this Sunday will blow it all out the water. And you'll see this isn't just like 19th century, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about money and, the famous quote, Heinrich Heine, who's a German Jew, said, money is God and Rothschild is his prophet. That's a great quote. That's not what we're dealing with here, people. We're dealing with a kind of thing where the energy, the psycho-spiritual energy that is involved with this, that has created this and drives the Epstein, Wexner, Chabad, Lubitowicz thing is so entropic. And they made a movie about living off of the screams of children. They made a movie called Monsters, Inc. And they stuck it right in your face. And we all sat around with our kids and watched it. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, this is some sick ass propaganda. It's going to destroy the American economy as we know. Like, we have the soil and the Bakken and the oil and the gas. And I mean that. I mean this $25 trillion of NASDAQ. It's done. It's done. And they're going to lie. And Lutnick met with a guy in Pakistan. Nobody believes these fucking real estate hucksters from New York City. Do you think that Putin even gives what Lutnick and who's the other one? Oh, and then that crazy son of a bitch that's in the Congress that follows Hegseth around. Go look at his speech at the Jewish something council about, like, what he says in public. He just says, well, the Jews run everything. Yeah, everybody just has to get used to that. Basically, that's what he says. I don't even think that Iran will really even negotiate with anybody in the White House. I mean, they would probably listen to some sort of proposal from Putin. They would probably listen to some proposal from and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf state monarchy dictatorship things. It's not well represented in the American press. They are very, very scared of regime change, including Saudi Arabia. This is why they're saying finish the job. They don't get there is no finishing the job here. If Iran could launch one missile a day, there's no end to this war. They could land the Marines on Karg Island, and if they can hit it with one missile, they're all dead. So Sunday, we'll continue. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll make you a deal. We have some other news that I should share with you too. This Sunday, I'm going to do a deeper and deeper dive. And I know I did these things like Armageddon and the Abomination of Desolation, and they're just absolutely terrifying things to think about. This Sunday, in some ways, is even worse, but it'll be more like academic, more like you're going to write a PhD thesis, more theological, more, and I'll reveal my sources. Some of them are on Substack, and they're absolutely magnificent. And I always come back to this thing, because sometimes sometimes a meme or a picture or something just sums it all up. And that thing to me is like the most terrifying. If you had to just explain, where are we in all that right there? This is where we are, people. So we're going to do that this weekend. I'll give you a spoiler alert. We're going to do conservatism, Christianity, Kabbalah, and Caliphate, all spelled with a K, and I'll explain why. I think it's going to be called American Gothic, Conservative, Christian, Kabbalah, and the New Caliphate, or something like that. All four of which spelled with a K, because they're all connected. Sort of a grand thesis, kind of a deal. I say that like every week, and then the thesis just keeps evolving. All right, so point of order, out of order. We are now registered in California to do wealth management. We're not going to say much more, but we're now registered in California. We now have a scope of work from a group in Austin, Texas, which I visited a month or two ago. So that all the things I've talked about on here, tokenization, real world assets, cattle, Minnesota, real estate, all this new finance that would run on blockchain. If Palantir hits me with a drone, they'll be your go-to. And then there's people that they answer to that are running certain parts of this. We need a big team to do all this. This isn't just like Jimmy's big fantasy. Because I'm, 90% of my world, I'm in that guy's head. But let's all calm down. No, we have the resources. It's all going to come through the subscriber port, though. It's not just greed. It's, we're building this big egregore of alternative investment, and it's complicated, people. It's a lot of tech. It's a lot of legal thinking. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of explaining it to you. The things that we're talking about don't exist. Like, you're never going to turn on Bloomberg and there's going to be a guy that says, we just put a new fund together to invest in cattle. Although, go to the grocery store. What's the most expensive thing you buy? Beef. Is there anybody on Wall Street, in hedge fund world or private equity world, doing anything about that? No, because America is this guy. It's in a fever dream of war and violence and children screaming. We have a civilization that lives off the screams of children, and that's coming to an end. The narcissistic ambition surge detection and alignment quotient, I believe, is rolled over.
Don't face me. I'm still getting in the and I even got my own dance.
Happy hump day.